So I was coming in for my landing and I flew a high performance parachute, so like little race car. And so you do these turns under canopy because you're going to put it into a dive so that at the bottom end it translates into horizontal speed because it's so much fun to just like skim across the grass really fast and have this great landing. It ends up being like the second part of the skydive that's so much fun. But things can go wrong. And I hit like a dead spot of air and my canopy just collapsed over my head right as I went into that dive.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I was like head and chest towards the ground and had a very short window of opportunity to decide what I was going to hit the ground with. So I decided to use my legs like the bumper of a car. Um, I remember like the last thought I had was that I didn't want my mom to have to wipe drool off of my chin. So I managed to fling my legs out in front of me and I compounded my left heel, completely shattered it. It was open. And then I compound fibbed my right leg. So all four bone heads were sticking out of my leg. So I did end up having to have multiple surgeries. I had a tibial rod put in, I had a screw put into my left heel. Um, but in the hospital, they told me I'd probably not walk normally again and I'd never run again.
This is your host, Brendan, and you're listening to the Ordinary to Ultra podcast. This podcast is all about helping you run your first ultramarathon and beyond. Tune in to hear new and experienced ultra runners share how they got into running in the first place, what inspired them to run an ultra, training and race day tips, and the gripping story of their first ultramarathon. Prepare yourself to be inspired as you hear stories of grit, sometimes failure, but ultimately triumph when our guests finally cross the finish line. Hey, Gillian, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to chat about you and your ultra running story.
Thanks for having me, Brendan.
Sweet. Gillian, really quick, would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, how old you are, if you've got kids, what your family looks like, just basic stuff, what you do for work.
I'm Gillian. I'm 45 years old. I currently live in Florida. I've only been here 2.5 years. I don't really stick to any place for too long. I have 9.5-year-old boy-girl twins, single mom, and I currently work in life insurance. I sell IULs and life insurance policies, and I got into that because I specialize in high risk people so that they can have policies because I used to be a professional skydiver. So,
Dang. So you got into this to help other professional skydivers, huh? Or other
well, life
folks that
insurance,
enjoy
yeah,
that?
because so
Yeah.
many people. So, number one cause of debt is medical bills.
Yeah.
And I saw so many GoFundMe's um, that were popping up in the skydiving industry from people that got hurt, and then their families would either, lose their loved one, or people would be hospitalized and have to pay for their bills. And none of them ever had a way to pay for it. So life insurance and IULs, they figured it was a way to kind of circumvent the GoFundMe.
Yeah, that's super cool. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for doing something noble with your career. I love hearing things like that. And yeah, you mentioned skydiving. So it sounds to me like, because you're on an ultra running podcast, that you do some really cool, extreme outdoor stuff. Do you do any other fun outdoor things?
Well, to a lesser degree since having kids. But I've kind of I've done the rock climbing. I was a trail dirt bike rider. Um, Obviously the skydiving and base jumping. I was a base jumper as well. Um,
Wow.
and kite surfing. Um, I, yeah, I pretty much will
Yes.
try or do anything.
I love to hear that. That is so cool. You've tried so many things. Yeah, I need to do more things. Get into mountain biking and other mountain stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah, skiing too.
What was that?
I love the skiing too.
Skiing, yeah, you need to come to Utah. I don't know if I mentioned that's where I'm at, but yes, the skiing. The skiing
Love.
was just kind of subpar this year. It was pretty warm. These warm years are weird, but it's okay. Hopefully next year. We just keep praying. Um, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Jillian, a little bit about yourself. I'd love to hear now how you got into running, whenever that was. If you were like the high school athlete, or if you got into it later. What what does that look like for you?
I was total skinny nerd in high school and not very athletic, just so clumsy, like picture olive oil. Um, so it wasn't actually until I moved away that I got into doing more things and stuff. And I just
Okay.
randomly started running as a young adult. And back then, I'd say up until I was probably 23 or 24, I thought like 4 miles was far. I was,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I ran 4 miles. And people would be like, can't believe you run 4 miles. Um, and so that's kind of where it started. And then I got into skydiving, and it was just a means for me to be more physically active in a sport where um, most people are either jumping or they're just doing whatever. If they're a full time skydiver, they're probably hanging out partying afterwards. Um, so I started running more then too, because I wanted to kind of break that mold of being this stereotypical jumper and be more of an athlete as well.
Cool. Is skydiving, like when I think about skydiving, I'm like, it doesn't seem super physical. I don't know. Do you feel like you get a workout in when you skydive? Like, I don't know.
Um, well, it depends. I mean, if you're a professional skydiver and you're jumping, 10, 12 times a day, there has to be a certain amount of stamina because you've got to pack your parachute and then you jump on the load and you fly to altitude. And then you are going to have an adrenaline spike no matter what. There's a lot of focus that goes into accomplishing whatever your goal is on that jump. And then, you know, flying your canopy and landing, running out that landing, and then carrying all your gear back over and then putting it down and packing again, and then repeat, repeat, repeat until you're done with your day. So it can be very
Mm-hmm.
physical. It just depends on what level you're training and what level you're performing as well. And people who are
Mm-hmm.
working in it, like when you're carrying um, tandem passengers, I was a tandem master as well. I did tandems in Dubai for a while. Um, but you're not only carrying much heavier gear, but you're also carrying a person in the front of you. So yeah, it gets more physical for
Yeah,
sure.
that sounds a lot more physical. Yeah, like controlling both of you in the air. Yeah, that would take more effort. Um, so it sounds like skydiving was sort of in the past for you. Is that something you still do, or is that something that you
No,
don't
I
do as
actually
much?
stopped. I stopped because of the kids. So, and especially when my children's father and I split up when they were 2.5, I realized one of us has to make it, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh, and it had to be me because I was the one most present in the picture. So, um,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And then the base jumping, which that is actually the way more physical end of it, because you were hiking for all of those. You're earning your altitude as a base jumper, unless you're into just jumping off of low stuff. But I was in like Norway and Italy and Switzerland where you're like doing hour-long hikes to get to where you're exiting from. um, that was what I truly loved. And that's what I definitely had to leave behind because it's a lot more dangerous. And again, it's maybe when they're adults, they'll get to do some of that stuff again. But I had to really assess what was important. And I think that's the other reason running really started filling in the gaps for me for mental health and um, just having something to transition my focus to.
Mhm. That makes so much sense. Yeah. Um, when did this transition from these extreme sports to to running happen, like more heavy running?
Even when my kids were little, I mean, I got the double bob stroller and I started putting my kids in the stroller and like running 6 or 8 miles with them. And I think at
Nice.
that time I was in Vista, California, and then for a little bit staying in I can't remember what area it was. I was staying at a friend's house for it was like this one pinnacle month where it was all hills around her house. And I was house sitting for her. And I'd go on these 8 mile runs where it was just up and down with my kids in their stroller. And I was like, this is great. And I just felt so empowered and so much more fit from doing it. And that was kind of uh, the turning point with that. Um, as far as the running getting crazy for me, though, um, that actually has to backtrack to the skydiving because when I was living and working in Hawaii skydiving, I had a canopy collapse. Um, so I was coming in for my landing and I flew a high performance parachute, so like little race car. And so you do these turns under canopy because you're going to put it into a dive so that at the bottom end it translates into horizontal speed because it's so much fun to just like skim across the grass really fast and have this great landing. It ends up being like the second part of the skydive that's so much fun, but things can go wrong. And I hit like a dead spot of air and my canopy just collapsed over my head right as I went into that dive. um,
Oh my
so
goodness.
I was like head and chest towards the ground and had a very short window of opportunity to decide what I was going to hit the ground with. So I decided to use my legs like the bumper of a car. Um, I remember like the last thought I had was that I didn't want my mom to have to wipe drool off of my chin. So I managed to fling my legs out in front of me and I compounded my left heel, completely shattered it. It was open. And then I compound tib fibbed my right leg. So all four bone heads were sticking out of my leg. Um, and yeah, so luckily for me, there was a retired field doc who was a skydiver. He was in his 70s at the time, amazing man. And he came out with his little black doctor's bag and told me he could set my leg right then. And he grabbed my ankle and pulled the bones back in while I was laying there in the field. So those were only displaced for like maybe 10 minutes before he did that. Not recommended. And he even said that they were probably going to be pretty mad about it. Um, but I attribute him to me being able to do what I'm doing now because my muscles weren't out of place for long enough to have further injuries than I did. So he kind of got all that stuff back into place. I did end up having to have multiple surgeries. I had a tibial rod put in, I had a screw put into my left heel. Um, but in the hospital, they told me I'd probably not walk normally again and I'd never run again. Um, and just with that, it's kind of like a gauntlet being thrown. Um, so pretty much as soon as I got out of the hospital, I started rehabbing and within a couple of months, I started just slowly starting to run again on the North Shore of Oahu, just getting on the trail and obsessing over the mechanics of it. And that's when running really became it for me.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That is I mean, that's a crazy, terrible, fantastic story, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, when you're talking about the split second decision you had to make, like that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And you thought, do I want yeah, I don't want to be the drool
Yeah.
monster for the rest of my life. So you used your legs. What a decision. Anyway, that's just crazy. I guess I'm glad you made that decision.
Yeah. Right. And then I
Right.
ran the hardware out. I basically ran so much that the screw in my heel backed out on its own, started backing out. So they had to do a surgery and remove that. Um, and then later on, they took out the tibial rod as well. So I'm hardware free. Um,
Woohoo.
yeah,
That's
woohoo!
great.
And then, and then yeah, I started running like 10, 12 miles at a time and then kept building up and then kids and everything. There's always running a little bit
Yeah.
less so. And then COVID,
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh
think
my
COVID
goodness.
impacted a lot of runners.
Yeah. Did you still get out? I mean, some people got out more depending on like where they were and what their situation was, and some people less. But what was it for you?
Um, I was actually living on Long Island at the time, like right near the
Okay.
epicenter, and the
Oh yeah.
paranoia was strong. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I was doing like neighborhood runs, but wearing a mask running, and it was crazy, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
just so unhappy in general. I mean, everybody was. It was just people were not thriving. That was survival time for most everybody I know. Um, yeah, and I was not in a good place. I was in a bad relationship and a bad place and not, I don't know, it was kind of hit or miss on my running. I put on weight. I mean, not a lot, but like, you know, not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, and then I made the move down here to Florida, and I guess that was in 2021, end of 2021. And I remember just thinking, I need to change something. And so a week before the new year, I decided I was going to sign up for this trail run. It was like a 30K on New Year's morning at like 6 a.m. And so I went and did
Woo.
that. And and then
And that's what
started,
got you in the door, huh?
oh yeah, started packing on the
Yeah.
mileage, doing like, I thought 40 miles a week was great. 25 to 40 was like what I started averaging. Um,
Good for you.
and then the crazy started kicking in this year. Um, I I don't ever do New Year's resolutions. I think they're ridiculous. I'm more of the, you know, 1% better every day over a prolonged period of time is going to yield way better effects. Yeah.
I love that
So
atomic habit stuff.
yeah, totally. So New Year's comes around and everyone else makes their resolutions, and that's when I'm sitting on the couch and eating as much garbage as I can shove into my face and just like enjoying life and being like whatever. And that lasted for like the first week of January, and then on January 10th I was like, I need to go run. So I went and I ran a half marathon because I always do solo runs. That's my thing. Um, And I did that and I was like, that felt great. So then I took one day off, and then the day after that I ran another one, but I think I did like 14 and a half or whatever. And then I decided that was going to be my new thing, is every other day I would run a minimum of a half marathon.
Whoa.
So I did 11 of those in a row, and
Whoa.
and they were, each run was between the lowest I think was like a 13.5, but the highest was like a 20.6 or something. So, but
Oh.
generally around 15 to 16 miles every other day. And then I'm like,
Uh-huh.
well, how do I finish this? Because, I would have been happy with half marathon every month of the year, just like one. And then I was doing them all in 1 month. So the last day of January, I was like, well, I might as well I'll run a marathon. Um, and then I realized, I don't even know who said it. You might know. Somebody said, um, your first ultra, all it is a marathon with like a 6 mile warm up.
Mm.
And so I thought about that. I'm like, I can run 6 miles like it's nothing. I mean, that's a snack.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and I ran my snack and just ran a marathon after it. And
And that was your first 50K?
yeah, so my first 50K was just this random, yeah,
Dang.
like
And
last
that
day of
way,
January.
yeah, that was this January
Yeah.
or yeah,
Yeah.
that was this January. Okay,
Last year,
okay.
this January. And it was a sub 5 hour 50K. I
Oh my
started at like,
goodness.
I started at like 6 o'clock at night, tucked my kids in a bed,
At night?
and then just ran. And it was like 40 degrees by the end of it. And my hands were cold. And I'm a total
Yeah.
goldfish. So I was like, oh
Yeah.
crap, I can't remember how far a 50K is in miles. And I couldn't get my
Right, me too.
fingers to work. And I'm trying to search on Safari while I'm running.
Yeah. Like,
And it was
okay.
just stupid.
I need
Yeah.
to hear I want to hear about this in more detail. But before I ask you some questions about your 50K. So, I want to understand your timeline again. I just like timelines for some reason. So you when did you break your legs
Broke
skydiving?
my legs
Like what
in,
year?
okay, so I broke my legs in 2000, 2008.
2008.
2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a
And
while
then,
ago.
yeah. And
And
then
then
I was running a ton. I was living on Kauai in 2012. That was when I started running like 12 miles consistently. And
okay.
then 2014, I ran the Honolulu Marathon.
Okay. So you'd
Yeah.
ran a marathon
So I did the marathon,
and
and that was a 4:11 marathon.
well done.
Yeah, 4
Nice.
hours, 11 minutes. Not a lot of
That's
training,
great
just
for
was
a
like,
first.
I'll wing it. And then I had to run home
Yeah.
afterwards. So it was a marathon plus like 2 miles.
Well, that was your first ultra.
I
Has
guess
anyone
so.
told you that before?
No, because I didn't even know what
No,
an ultra was until
I know,
recently.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that's annoying. But yeah, the people will be like, yeah, anything over a marathon is technically an ultra marathon. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
but did it
Yeah.
count? I don't know. That's really cool. When did you have your kids?
I had my kids in 2014. So I basically ran
14.
the Honolulu
Yeah.
Marathon, and I think I got pregnant like 2 months later.
Yeah, boom.
Yeah.
Um, so they are
They're 9.5
like,
now.
yeah, I was gonna say like almost 10 now.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Then we have this gap where some running was happening, but you didn't really progress like
Yeah.
distance
I
wise
didn't think
in
about
that
what was
time.
possible.
Yeah, you were busy, I imagine. You know, you got these kids and it sounds like some other things going on, and that's but you're here and January this year you just I love the half marathons back to back to back. I'm thinking the amount of miles you're putting in there here, like you should be doing a 50 miler. Like
Well, that's
you
next
could
week.
oh my gosh, why am I talking to you right now? I'm supposed to be talking to you after that too. I could have got
Well,
the whole story. Wait,
yeah.
is that going to be just you, or are you doing a race?
Oh no, that's a race. I'm gonna do uh it's the Fool's Run. It's in the
Fool's Run. Is it
Croom, so it's a trail. It's a trail 50 miler.
in Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. My
um
gosh. Okay, no, we can't talk about that yet. We can't. I want to hear more about the 50K. Okay. So you
okay.
decide you're going to run this 50K, and you ran it from your house,
Yeah. Yeah.
like on
So
trails. Are there trails nearby? Was it on the road? Like,
okay, so the first part of it was on the road. So like there's this really great path that it's now my loop because it turns
mm-hmm,
into an it's a 16-mile loop if you just do along the road because it has a sidewalk in each side. So I go down that, but it got dark and it gets scary. I run with pepper spray and whatever else. Like
mm-hmm.
I get a little nervous running. And then
Sure. Stay safe.
within kind of like the community that I live, I've kind of figured out these routes where like I can vary the distance just depending on how many side streets I add. So just even within my own community, I can make a 16-mile run.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so when I did the 50K, I just kind of minimized it to where I was able to do the one section outside that was the 6 mile snack, the intro. And then I did 2 laps within the community to make the marathon distance. Yeah.
I see. Which was
And I did
mostly
wear
on
a
the
vest.
road.
It's the first time I wore a vest with a little bit of water.
Yeah.
Didn't really drink much water.
For the 50K?
Yeah.
You crazy.
It was cold. Well, so when I run the half marathons, I never drink water. I don't drink water unless I get past 20 miles. Like that's what I'm used to.
20? My
Yeah.
goodness. I
So
do understand.
I don't bother with water until
My goodness, though, you're probably dehydrated by that point, right? I mean,
no, I
no?
mean, I
You're
feel
cool.
good.
Your body's awesome then.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously things are going to change, it's different when it gets hotter out. Like
That's
when
true.
it's the 103, like all summer last summer when I was running you know, I was running between 10 and 15 miles on those runs too. Um, I didn't go past like like half marathon distance was my limit in the heat. Because even in Hawaii, over the summer, I was in Hawaii for a month and I was running a minimum of 8 each run. And then the max was, I think, 14. But
Because it's
yeah,
just
I
so
don't drink
hot.
water. I don't
Yeah.
want to go backwards. That's the only deterrent for me involving ultras. And that's why I was like, I really like the idea of supported races because I don't want to carry stuff.
Yeah. So this 50 miler will be good for you. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about that. So you did carry water though, and you did drink some water after mile
Only a
20.
little. Yeah. And I had like a little like electrolyte. I had like salt tabs and
You
I had
did? Okay.
maybe 4 of those. And I ate 1 bar.
Okay. And okay, so how are you feeling like during this all? Did you ever cramp up? Did you were your muscles hating you for not having more electrolytes or
No. I have
water?
horrible
Like,
I have horrible feet too. I mean, I've got nerve
okay.
damage in my left foot from that shattered heel and you know, I've got like, you know, bunionettes, I guess they call them, like the
Ah,
painful bit below your baby toe that's
yeah.
swollen on me. My feet
Okay.
are jacked up from skiing and so my feet hate me past certain distances. Like once I get around like 23 miles, my feet hate me. But
Hmm.
other than that, it's my legs never really get sore. I don't get too tired.
Yeah, did you
I
eat?
really feel like I could run forever.
Seriously, you're incredible. Did you eat during
I had like one
this
mini kind bar and I ate like one
kind
tiny
bar?
thing of peanut butter. Like I said, I am not the person anyone should ever follow for nutritional advice or hydrate
Hmm.
certain races. And like look at my training. I wing it. I mean, everything for me is like, oh, well, maybe a half marathon every other day would be good training. Like, I wonder if I can do that. Okay, well, I guess I'll see if I can do that now. I'm so stupid about it.
Well, I don't think it's stupid. Like it's
Oh,
exhilarating and fun, you know? Like I'm the same way. I haven't had a coach. I looked at some training plans for my first marathon and I was like, okay, so this is like sort of what I need to do. And then I didn't like program in my calendar how many miles I was going to run every time.
yeah,
I just knew vaguely from like advice I'd heard and just how I felt. I was like, I bet if I run at least a marathon distance every week, like in total miles. So if I run 6 miles on Tuesday, 6 miles on Thursday, that's 12 miles, and then like 14-mile half marathon on Saturday, then I think
time
my
on your
body
feet.
will. Yeah,
Stack it
it's
up.
the time on your feet. Yeah, right. Like I think I'll be
Yeah,
able to do it, and it's like I don't know.
yeah.
So I wung it, and it worked out fine. I got a 4 hour, 4 minute marathon.
That's nice.
Um, yeah, which is fantastic. I was shooting for a 4 hour marathon. I was like, I could probably do this 9 minute ish miles. It's like, yeah, this would be fine. And yeah, it happened, and I think it's fun doing the testing, the self-testing and just seeing how far you can go and just
It
being
is.
adventurous about it. I don't
And
know.
I get really competitive with myself. Um, so that's kind of the main thing is like I end up wondering, you know, like doing the 11 half marathons in a row. Like I think two of them were under 2 hours, and just being stoked on, can I bring the speed down, or, can I bring my time down? How can I make this better? And just pushing yourself. And in skydiving and base jumping, we always said, if you're gonna be dumb, you better be tough. And that's kind of the motto. Um, because you end up paying a price on a lot of stuff, but I feel like not so much within the ultras yet, like within the training for it and within what I'm doing. I am nervous about trail, because I don't like sand in my toes.
Sand. Well, yeah, because this is in Florida, so your 50 miler is going to be partly in sand or like.
Well, and it's the same area that I did that 30K on New Year's Day, and it's gross. Like there's certain sections where you're just in, like silty, sandy dirt, and
Uh-huh.
you're just trudging through it. So right now I'm
I
trying to
kn-
figure out, ordering gaiters this week and
yeah, some
just
like weird
trying
gear.
to plan a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit this time, okay? Just
When,
some minor planning.
as long
Yeah.
as you can stay upright.
Yeah, and not like, yeah, and don't get too much sand in your shoe. That's smart. Like
Yeah.
you get too much sand in your shoes, it's gonna mess your feet up probably
You know what the
because
other
the
game changer
lumps will
is?
hurt.
The other game changer is toe socks.
Yo, I agree.
Toe socks are where it's at. They're the most amazing thing ever.
Jillian, we can talk about toe socks because this is an ultra running podcast, and
Oh,
the people that listen to this will be newbies. So yeah, let's talk about toe
socks
socks.
are
Why?
so good. I mean, like I said, I've got bad feet. I mean, it's
Okay.
just the way it's going to be. And those little toe socks, it's like giving a nice little warm hug to each of your toes, keeping them from rubbing, you know, protect them a little bit. It's so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is good. I've noticed personally that I don't get blisters on my toes with the
Yeah.
toe socks, so it at least eliminates that. I still get blisters on like the side of my left foot. My left foot's the problem foot, and I got to figure it out.
Yeah, I tape.
I
Um, I tape my heel where I had that screw in and out. Like there's this happy little bump. So if I don't tape it, I will rub the skin off and not even know it because there's the nerve damage.
Oh, that is terrible.
Yeah, it sucks. My little meat muffin.
Oh my gosh.
So, so yeah, so like anytime I'm doing a run, I buy the KT tape, the pre-cut little strips, and I put it over my heel, and every run I've got to tape the heel. And then so that in combo like with the toe socks, I don't I don't get blisters ever, ever, ever,
Ever.
ever. Um,
Have you had to hone in on your shoes? Like, or are
oh yeah.
shoes not a
So
problem for
that's the
you?
other question. Are you a zero drop guy, or what's your story?
Yeah. What's
I'm
my
all about
story?
the zero drop.
Okay, I need to try that because no, I'm the opposite of that.
Okay,
I
because
am
when I
in the
didn't have
Hoka.
zero drop, I used to get shin splints, and I
Ah,
also was getting I lost my toenail like on the second toe, like the one next to my big toe, because I
yeah,
would end up getting toe strikes, even if the shoe
yeah.
was a little bit bigger. But when I went to zero drop, never have had another problem with that.
Interesting.
So no more
What
shoes.
brand do
And
you wear?
my first love is Topo. So I love
Topo.
Topos. But
Okay.
They just don't hold up with the mileage that I do.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I switched to Brooks.
Brooks. They
Yeah.
got some zero drop stuff, huh?
Yeah. I think I'm using Brooks Hyperions now, but I'm a huge fan of them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's the shoe I think it's the shoe, but I just don't have money to go be buying like
I know,
tons of
right?
pairs of trail shoes, right? But the next, whenever I wear these ones out, I wear Hoka's, and yeah, they're like massive cushion, right? And that's really nice for my legs, my knees. The minute I put on Hoka's, from like just like normal tennis shoes to running shoes, my knees and my ankles and my shin splints, like all that went away because I was having all sorts of flaring up there before. But no, the Hoka's, like, they're really forgiving on the joints.
But you
But
feel like you lose a feel for the trails a little.
yeah, and I think that could be a problem if I'm doing more technical stuff, which may come. Like for right now, most of my trail runs have been pretty basic, like dirt trail, not many rocks, and so I don't feel like it's a problem. But I have noticed when things get more technical that it's kind of hard to like jump around when you've got these massive clouds underneath.
Yeah,
Maybe I
I'd be
should.
worried about ankle stability with those too, you know? Like
Yeah, yeah,
really good
rolling.
and practicing, what is it called? The Bosu, the I don't know,
I don't
the
know.
balance beams.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I think the Hokas are a little tight on on the front of my foot though, and I think that's why my feet are rubbing up there. So maybe some wider toe box or something would prevent that blistering. Or like you said, maybe I just need to tape it up where I know it always, like, I know where it blisters. It
Yeah,
happens in the same spot every time. So if
try
I
to
just
tape.
taped it,
I'm all about the KT
yeah,
tape.
KT tape.
It's on my
That's what I
Amazon
need.
subscribe and save. I get a new
Seriously.
of them every single month.
That's how much you use it. I never use subscribe to save, but like if you're going through KT tape, might as well save 15% or whatever. So
Yeah,
that's
not
awesome.
have to think about it because I'll forget because I'm a total goldfish.
Yeah, right. It'll just show up. That's sweet. Well, thanks for talking to me about your shoes. And we were talking about your shoes because of like your feet. We were talking about, I don't know.
Can I bring up one of my other game changers for running?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Tips.
So I was actually laughing. So I get Runner's World, even though at a base level, I'm always like, how much is there really that you can say about running? That there's a magazine every month for however long, but I still have it.
Mm,
I'm flipping through. Finally,
sweet.
somebody said it. Books on tape. Books on tape. I don't ever listen to music. I have not listened to music on a run since like early 2000s. I started listening to books on tape. I started with podcasts, but then I don't like having to change what I'm doing mid run. Um, but I remember like that Honolulu Marathon, I listened to Nosferatu by Joe Hill, which is Stephen King's son. And it was such a great book. And I'm like, this is great, great to run to. You have a good book, you can go any distance. And I love that. I'm amazed that more people don't talk about how beneficial that is to distance running if you feel like you have to listen to something when you're running because it
I
doesn't affect your
super,
pace.
yeah. No, I super appreciate you saying that. I've said it in past episodes, so hopefully I don't feel this isn't repetitive to listeners, but um, I run to audiobooks too. I started that way. That's how I started running. And I think it's the fact that I was listening to audiobooks when I was just running like 3 miles a few times a week just to like get fit and like lose some weight. That's how I got into this. But I think the audiobooks made me love it. Like, I think they helped me love running more because it was like a release and like an escape. I would just zone out, not even thinking about the running, because the running sucks when you first start running. Like, it's just painful. Uh, but it was for me, anyways. Maybe it's not for everyone. You sound like you're just amazing when you run all the time, so that's awesome. But
Well, I remember hating it at one point. I just had this
Okay, okay.
conversation the other day. Like I was in I was in Jamaica for a
Yeah.
Scottish wedding. You have to say it that way because it's great. Well, and I was running and I was thinking, God, this sucks. I hate this. And I was miserable. And somebody was walking past me on the beach. And all of a sudden, I had that self awareness of what my face looked like. And I'm like, who would ever want to run if they saw me right now? And I decided right then that I was always going to smile when I ran. So I'm the smiley runner.
The smiley runner.
And I started enjoying it
Yeah.
after that. It was just like a mental shift.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's in your head, but the audiobooks made it so much easier to like. It was an escape for me in the middle of the day. I would get out during lunch and do a run, and then it just progressed, and now I run to push myself and see how far I can go,
To
and
find out what
because I
happens in
love
the book.
to run. And if I, yeah, honestly, I do look forward to that. I listen to Brandon
Yep.
Sanderson books.
Oh,
They're
it's
like
so good.
35, yeah, they're like 35 hours long,
Yeah,
the
they
Way of
are.
Kings series. And it's just perfect to listen to. I finished the last 4 hours of the Way of Kings during my marathon, and it was enthralling because all the stuff goes down at the end of the book, right? So I'm glad you like Brandon Sanderson. Have you read the Way of Kings?
I have not.
Okay,
No,
you
but
got to commit. You have the time on your feet to get through those
well,
in
I
like a
know I can
month.
commit. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I keep looking at like longer and longer races. Like I've got dream races, so many dream races, so many dream races.
Right? This is an
Yeah,
ultra thing too, I
but
think.
you have to be a part. What is it? I don't know, like sadist, masochist. I don't know. I mean, which one
I
it
love
is.
the pain. Yeah.
You like
I don't
love
remember
to push
either.
yourself.
Yes, you love the pain. Yeah, one of those.
Well, it's not even. It's I want to see how far I can take it. Like I want to push it till I drop. And I don't know. Um, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
Are you able to do like yoga and meditation? Do you do yoga and meditation?
I don't. I don't.
Me neither.
No, not in my own time. No?
No.
Okay.
And that's the other reason I love running. I call it my moving meditation because I don't have the capacity to still myself like that. Um, and so I feel like running also fills that place for me.
Mhm.
Like that's when I get centered.
Well said. Can you do that while listening to an audiobook, or is that when you turn
100%.
the audiobook off? Yeah, and then
No,
you just like
100%. Well, I mean, I even notice so I my kids are 9.5 and I still read to them every single night as they're going to bed. And we have been,
nice.
I mean, we read every series. We are working our way through Lord of the Rings. So we're like on page 900 of Two Towers. And I'll be reading the book to them and I'll be thinking about something else entirely. And I do different
Yeah.
voices and everything too.
Oh
And then
my
all of a sudden, I'll
goodness.
have that awareness that I am somehow reading this book to them with all the different voices, but I'm still over here thinking about this. And that's what I do during running as well. I'm still absorbing the book that I'm listening to, and meanwhile, working on all these other elements in my life that need to be handled at some level. So, yeah,
That's really cool. I've noticed my brain do that too, and then I'm like, crap, I need to rewind this book because I don't really remember what happened
I
in the
have,
last chapter.
there is
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
so grateful you can do the 30 seconds back and hit it like
Yeah.
3 times in a row.
Thanks, Audible. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
um, but no, you're right. But for me, some of the time I do just like, especially when I'm hitting the trails, it's just so beautiful and fulfilling to be in nature that I can like when I road run, I like to have the books almost every time. But when I'm on the trails, I don't feel like I need that,
It's
and
not the same.
it's just me and the focus on running and then thinking, and sometimes road running just being in my head, because for some reason it is meditative, and you can have the greatest revelations ever sometimes when you're running. It's like shower, when you're sitting in the shower and you're like, wow, great ideas, because you're just, I don't know, it's like that, where you come up with amazing ideas, figure out how to solve a problem at work, or solve your personal life problems. It happens during running for some reason.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. And that's why ultra running is great, because you get to run so much training for them that you get to meditate all the time and listen to lots of books. That is a good perk.
Getting like 8 hours of running in a week or more. It's crazy. And that's like
Yeah,
on, without even a race.
you're right. What are the miles you're putting in right now preparing for this 50 miler?
So I have been chilling for the last 2 weeks, but up until that, I was doing between 50 and 60. So 50 to 60 a week, uh,
Mm-hmm.
comfortably. So yeah.
Do you usually run in the morning or at night, or like when do you fit in your runs?
Well, because of the kids. And
Right.
luckily, I'm able to make my own schedule. So pretty much it's me getting up, getting them to their bus stop. I have to drive them to their bus stop and then rushing home and getting ready and then going for my run right then. So I pretty much go do the run right after I drop them off at their bus. Um, and then if I have help at all, I'll run at night sometimes. But yeah,
Okay.
wherever I can fit them in.
And yeah, and your work is flexible. Like you can work when you want. Do you have to work certain hours, or is it just get the work done sort of stuff?
There's meetings that I should be in. Um, should,
Emphasis.
yeah, but I'm not. I've never been. I'm not as present as I should be. Yeah, and then other than that, I, I make appointments and I'm the one who makes them, so I'm going to be present for
Okay.
those. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Do you talk with people and you're helping them with choosing policies and stuff? So
yeah,
you're like doing a lot
doing
of
Zoom
calls.
calls and one-on-one
Yeah.
with people, and
Very cool.
basically being invited into their home, like you and I are doing right now, and
Uh-huh.
talking about what their needs are and what's comfortable for them and what they're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Very cool. Well, cool. It's good to understand how running works into your schedule, especially as a mom. I know there's other moms and other dads too. It's like between work and kids and whatever else you have going on in life. Like, when do I fit runs in? Like, my life currently is, um, I've actually been able to run a lot because I've been unemployed for the last 2 months. So I don't think I've shared that. Maybe I've shared that on the podcast, but I now have a job. So I'm going to be working a full-time job, and I've got this podcast that I like to run, and I've got a kid and church responsibilities, and uh, and I know there's so many things. I want to like also do some contract work for marketing and maybe start my own thing on the side. Like, I can't do it
It's
all.
so hard. I get it. Yeah. And the single mom thing, like, yeah.
So busy.
And I've been trying to date too.
Oh
Ugh,
man.
it's the worst. The worst. Especially,
Oh,
especially when running comes up.
why?
You wouldn't you wouldn't believe the stupid things that people say. I mean,
What? Like, doesn't that hurt your knees?
no, it's worse. Um,
Okay.
the the common one that comes up is you must have the best stamina, and it's always like all of a sudden it becomes this fixation on, I bet you've got great stamina, and I'm like, eh, I just no, let's
I
not,
see.
let's not.
Not cool. Let's not do that. That's
It's
lame.
you know, I of course end up always pivoting and like, well, it's going to be great when there's a zombie apocalypse because I'm just going to
Yes.
outrun everybody, you know? Like,
I
or,
love that too.
or people who just immediately it's, well, I'm never going to be able to run like that. And I said, I've never said I was looking for a running partner.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like I have to say that every single time. There is that element to it where people feel like they need to be able to do what I can do, and that's just not going to happen.
Hmm. Well,
You know,
not overnight.
I
And they don't have to.
I
I mean,
don't
yeah, my wife doesn't run, and that's
I've
okay. She
never
likes the
ever
gym.
said that I wanted a running partner. I'm a
Yeah.
Forrest Gump runner, you know, like I just started running because I could and because I was excited and then I didn't want to stop because my body I listen to my body. You know, not everybody runs like that. And it's not even I feel like my running style isn't even predictable enough for me to want a running partner because I truly listen to my own body on every run. I never know how far I'm going to run. Like I just add and subtract based on how I feel. So if somebody's, well, I want to start running with you. I'm like, don't really, I don't really want that.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool that you, yeah, go with yourself and your body. But yeah, that would totally be a problem with having a running partner, unless your partner had the same stamina and was like, yeah, let's just
Well,
run
and the
20
other
miles
thing
today.
is
It's fine.
the books on tape. Oh no, I
Oh
got.
yeah, and you're like,
Can you please just? I'm
yeah, I'm busy here.
at the good part.
I'm having a moment here.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Some people
like
feel
we're
like they
gonna
have to
ruin
chit
my zen.
chat. Yeah, that is a thing. Mhm. I think it could be fun. I don't run with people much. I do every once in a while, but I think it could be fun to have a running buddy and do like once a week. But I do need the me time because it is part of my me time, you
Yeah,
know.
and I had recently I had met a guy who he did want to run with me. He was interested in ultras and I was like, "Well, that's kind of different because this is somebody who wants to go distance." And I like that because I know eventually I'm going to need a pacer or whatever else. Like this is going to be great because like regardless of anything, at least I've got a running friend. And that was how we approached it. And then we started like sending each other snapshots of runs and he became fixated on my speed. He's like, "Oh, you're
Speed.
fast." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." It's like, "Oh, that's fast." Because I was doing like, maybe 840 for 20 miles. And all of a sudden, I wasn't hearing from him anymore.
Oh, geez. That's too bad. That's
It
too
was
bad.
obsessive about the speed. Like, who cares? I can go slower. I,
That's so silly. You'll find your person. You'll find a person who doesn't care probably about ultra running, and then it'll just work out.
yeah, I think it's
Because
going to be
it's
more a matter of I just don't care anymore because I'm so happy doing the things I'm doing and not
yeah,
having
like
them be interrupted.
yeah, they'll have their own thing, and you'll have your thing. Is probably how it'll be. There are very few ultra running uh, couples, I imagine. I imagine that is not very common. I just interviewed an episode that came out this week, actually, an ultra running couple who ran like their first 50 mile together. Actually, they ran their first marathon together. Then they got married. Then they ran their first 50 miler together and their first 100 miler together. Like super cool, super cool. But
It's
like that's just not common.
for
It
some,
is.
yeah, like that's
Yeah, for them. They met
I,
on a dating app and they knew that they both liked running. So it just like worked out, like I guess that is the easier way to find someone who likes to run is like
it's great.
on
Yeah.
social media for dating, you can just search up those people. But my wife likes the gym and she will always like the gym probably and not like running. So that's just how it is. I
Fair.
do not like the gym. I want to be outside,
Yeah, I
not
put
in a box.
treadmill.
The treadmill, the
Like I'm
treadmill and the
so I'm sitting
weightlifting.
on a yoga ball on a treadmill because I've got like a standing, like the standing sitting desk. I have
Yep.
a
Same.
treadmill at my desk because that's the only way I can
Same.
handle my meetings. So I walk through my
You're
meeting,
walking.
and
My
then
goodness.
if it's a meeting
You
where I
get
can turn off
so
the
many
camera,
miles.
I I jog.
You get
And then
so many miles in.
yeah, and then I sit on my yoga ball because I can't sit still.
Oh my goodness. You get so many miles in.
Yeah,
Like walking on your walking treadmill, jogging on your walking treadmill, and
it's
going out
pretty
for your run.
stupid.
That
Yeah.
is fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, I need to be better about using my walking treadmill on the days that I don't run. Anyways,
Yeah.
I want to focus in again on your 50 miler. So you've been running 50, 60 miles a week. Yeah, you mentioned how you like don't eat much or drink much during your past runs, but like, is this one going to be different? I don't know. What do you think?
So I don't know because the 50K I did last week when we were supposed to meet for
Yeah,
this, and rescheduled, which yeah, that one, I just brought a bunch of gum.
gum.
I had gum and like I had gum and I had another like a little kind bar, and then I had the salt electrolyte things, the tablets. I like those. That time I actually did drink like 500 milliliters of water, but that was it, and I felt great. Um, I had to stop though because I had to go pick up my kids from the bus stop.
So you
Um,
didn't finish the
no, I
50K?
I finished
You
it,
did.
but I
Okay.
wanted to run longer than it, and I couldn't
Oh,
stop
darn.
because I felt good, and I was like, oh, I want to see if I can
Uh,
40. But then I realized I didn't
uh,
have. Um,
uh,
so I
dang
did
it.
finish my 50K, and then I went and got my kids. And then, so for the 50 miler, I'm definitely going to focus more on nutrition. I'm so like my big fear is pooping my pants.
Oh, yeah.
So scared
Okay.
of that
Yeah,
because my
no,
gut's
it's
going to
true.
fuck with me. And so, like, that's the big fear here. Um,
Hmm.
because I, man, I was in the women's ultra group on Facebook, and I'm asking them, like, we get down and 30 with our questions, because we want to have it all dialed in. But I think that's the other reason that I tend to be a little bit more standoffish with the food is because of how upset my stomach gets. Um,
Hmm.
and I think it's just going to be a matter of between when I do this 50 miler and when there is a potential 100 miler at the end of this month too. Because I've got like, I know, look at your face. I stack things. I'm not the smartest. If you're gonna be
No,
dumb,
no, no.
you gotta be tough. Um, and I
Can
just
I?
keep
I'm gonna
thinking,
quote that.
yeah, like I'm on a roll. Like if I can do this 50 miler next week, then why shouldn't I do a 100 miler 22 days later? Um, because in a sense, it's smart training. Like have one be the training for the other.
You're not
Stack.
wrong. That's
Um,
real. Yeah, you
and
say
then
dumb, but no, that's true. You should totally do
yeah,
them
and then the
relatively
other
close.
thing I was thinking about is so the David Goggins thing, where he does the 4x4x48. But I want to make it the 5x5x50 because then you actually get 2 more miles with only 2 more hours, but it's two fewer runs. Um, so I was thinking about pulling a 5x5 by 50 between the 50 miler and the 100 miler to
My
also get you
goodness.
time on feet.
Yeah,
This is how my
which
brain works.
is if which is it's 5 miles every
Every
5 hours for 50 hours.
Yeah. So you end
So
up only doing
almost two.
2 rounds.
Yeah, a little more than 2 days. But yeah, that's only
It's only 10
yeah,
runs
10
versus four
runs.
by
Yeah.
four, you end up with 12. And
Yeah, okay.
I get a bigger sleep gap, especially because the time I'm
Mhm.
going to do an 8-minute mile. So I'll get more sleep. It's all about optimizing.
Yeah. That's a great, I mean, no, that's really cool. I've heard about that a few times from a few of the people I've talked to recently.
The Goggins thing.
And yeah, the Goggins 4x4
Oh,
by 48, that was new to me.
it just seems like
I
such
mean,
brilliant training. I mean, because so when I did that 50K at the end of January, that was the other reason I did it at night, is I had been up since 5:45 that morning. So I was up at 5:45, having to do all the stuff with my kids, having to do all the things I do on my feet all day long, and then I ran the 50K.
hmm
So it's
that's good training
like getting
because you're already
yourself
tired.
into that zone. Last week I had like a super bad sleep night where I only got like 3 hours of sleep. So I made sure I ran like 15 miles that day. Um, because, you know, I got to be able to keep going when I'm dead on my feet.
Yeah, at mile 75 when you want to die, you're going to be fine because you already did it.
Yeah. So that's kind of my approach is, and I am asking lots of people about nutrition, bringing it back around like a Simpsons episode, because I definitely know
Me too.
there's
It's
humor in
okay.
me. Um, it's a supported race. So basically, my plan is to have my vest with a light amount of water in it that I can refill because I can't stand the feel of all the sloshing. Um,
hmm
and then I'm going to be carrying that, and then I'm going to be carrying a baggie with with wipes and toilet paper in it, and that's pretty
hmm
much the extent of my planning. I'll have my
hmm
little salt tablets, and depending on how hot it is out, I mean, we I think we're all really capable of listening to our bodies and what they want. Um, and there's a common sense element involved. Um, when I did the night 50K, I was barely sweating at all because the temperatures were low. I wasn't losing a lot to that. Um, when I did my 50K last Tuesday, I was sweating a ton because it was warm and I was in the sun the whole day. So I drank more. Um, you just got to pay attention to conditions and not be stupid. Be the right amount of dumb, right?
The right amount.
Get the right
As
amount of
you
tough
just,
with it.
yeah, you just got to be tough. Remember? Yeah, that's what you said. So just got
Yeah,
to be tough. Yeah,
yeah,
it's fine. That's sweet. Yeah, it'll be different. You'll be going many more miles. So yeah, you may have to eat and you may have to poop, but
yeah.
you'll be ready with your wipes, and that's okay.
Maybe I'll bring extra shorts.
Yeah, you never know.
So it's
Honestly,
really
the
funny
horror stories.
in base jumping. There's this thing people used to get like nervous bellies sometimes, and obviously, like
Oh,
you're
totally.
hiking, and you're getting to these exit points that are in the middle of nowhere. Like in Norway, all of a sudden you'd have like these crazy mountain goats pop up behind you, and you're like, feel like they're trying to kill you or whatever. There's no bathroom anywhere. That every so often, when you get to the landing area, you'd notice that somebody was missing a sock.
Oh, oh, ew.
That's poor planning.
It is what it is. Dang, that's
But I'm going to need
crazy.
both of my toe socks. So,
Yeah, you will. Yeah, and you'll need probably a few other pairs
yeah.
too to
Yeah,
change
I don't
into.
know. That's the other thing is the big discussion is to change your socks during a race or not. And I'm
Really?
thinking for the 50 miler, I'm just gonna like hold fast. You
Yeah,
know,
maybe not.
I'm gonna have that heel taped and have my toe socks hopefully happy. And if the gaiters work and I don't get a ton of sand in my shoes, then I'm gonna just try and hold the line.
Yeah, I think that sounds doable in a 50, but yeah, in a
That's
100,
my
like I see those, yeah, I see those people and I'm like, yeah, you better be changing your socks. Like that'll probably do your feet some justice since they look terrible.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you have a dream 100 for your first?
I do. I live in Logan, Utah, or near Logan, Utah. north of Salt Lake City by about an hour and a half. And there's an ultra in my backyard called the Bear 100 that is gaining popularity, but it's not quite as crazy as some of these other ones. But it's a mountain ultra, so it's got 20 something thousand feet of elevation gain and loss all up and down these mountains for 100 miles. I've driven the road that connects Logan to Bear Lake, which is where it ends. It is insane to me to think people could do that in a day. It's like an hour 20 drive, and yeah, you're just gonna go run that in a day. It's fine. Yeah, it is amazing. I'm for sure going to pay somebody for that in the next year or two, or at least volunteer. But yeah, that is my dream in the next few years to do that one, work up to it. It's fun. This is a fun adventure to be on, personally, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey too. And it's cool that you did your 50K unsupported and not an official race. Like, people, we should consider these options, making our own 50K and then, joining your real races too, or, the established supported races, right? Um, uh, Thank you. Thank you for coming on today and sharing your tips, your advice, your craziness, and I'm so excited for you. 50 miler and 100 miler, maybe. I mean, I think you should do it
I mean, why?
feeling, yeah, if you're feeling peppy after the 50 miler, which it sounds like you probably will. Yeah, yeah, do it. And then
Worst thing that happens is I don't finish,
yeah,
and I will
exactly.
next time.
Might as well try.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And good luck. Hey, your host Brendan here. I just wanted to thank you personally for listening to today's episode. As someone preparing for my own first ultramarathon, I've found these conversations to be super valuable, and I hope they are for you as well. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or somewhere else, make sure to follow or subscribe so you know when the next episode comes out. Also, make sure you check out the show notes of this episode. There's a link to sign up for the Ordinary to Ultra email newsletter, to join our Facebook and Strava groups where you can meet other people striving to run their first ultra marathon, and see any links that our guests may have provided as well. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.